Welcome back. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed lunch. Now, before we begin the second part of the day, I'd really like to spend a moment to thank our sponsors. The sponsors of this event are really critical for its success, and really without them, all and none of this would be possible. So I really want to provide a special thanks to our sponsors. This includes the Caribbean Development Bank, Anbima, Liberty, Picaval, Sustainable Fitch, Chemonics, CIBC, Scotiabank, BNP Paribas, the Eco Business, Lagreen, ERM, G Funds, RF Merchant Bank and Trust, and Ikigai Governance. Thank you so much to all of you for your trust and for your leadership. And now, thank you. And now, talking about sponsors, the privilege and the pleasure to introduce one of our sponsors, actually our
2026 edition, and I don't think it would be a stretch. 2026 edition, and I don't think it would be a stretch for me to suggest that over the course of this week, that our island becomes more than just a host, it becomes a meeting point for ambition and action. Global CEOs, investors, development partners, and policymakers have come together both in person and, of course, virtually to unlock private capital, forge strategic partnerships, and advance sustainable development across our region. The agenda for this week reflects both the breadth of our challenges and the depth of our collective capability. From energy transition and climate resilience to oceans and the blue economy. From sustainable food systems and circular economy solutions to capital markets, sustainability bonds, and data-driven investment. This week is about turning ideas into investable, scalable solutions. What unites these conversations is a shared understanding. The private sector is, in fact, indispensable. It is private capital that brings scale. It is private enterprise that drives innovation, and it is private sector leadership working in partnership with governments, and development institutions that will determine whether resilience becomes reality for our people. Across our region, the private sector is not simply a beneficiary of development. It is a primary driver of growth, employment, and productivity. Caribbean businesses create the majority of jobs, connect our economies to global markets, and are often the first to innovate in response to climate, technology, and market shifts. If we are serious about building resilient economies, then the private sector must be enabled, incentivized, and financed to lead that transformation. At the Caribbean Development Bank, our support for private sector growth is focused on expanding access to finance, reducing risk, strengthening entrepreneurship, and improving the business environment. We provide financing directly and through local institutions to help Caribbean businesses, especially MSMEs, invest and grow. We deploy guarantees, blended finance, and co-financing to crowd in private capital. We support entrepreneurs, including women-owned and youth-led firms that form the backbone of our economies, and we work with governments to strengthen policies, institutions, and public-private dialogue so businesses can compete, innovate, and thrive. Ladies and gentlemen, we also know this. Across the Caribbean, governments continue to navigate structurally high debt levels, limited fiscal space, and repeated external shocks, whether from climate events, global economic volatility, or tightening financial conditions. These are not temporary constraints. They are embedded in the very structure of small, open economies. At the same time, there is a persistent disconnect between risk perception and risk reality. While many Caribbean countries have demonstrated strong repayment histories and resilience, they continue to face elevated borrowing costs. This perception gap, combined with limited market depth and balance sheet constraints, translates into higher financing costs and shorter maturities, further compounding fiscal pressures. The result is a difficult cycle. Debt servicing crowds out investment. Investment constraints limit growth, and limited growth reinforces fiscal vulnerability. And we all know the numbers. Even without a major new development push, the Caribbean's gross financing needs amount to $65.2 billion over the next decade. When we look specifically at climate readiness, the challenge becomes even starker. The region requires approximately $14 billion every year to respond to climate risk, yet mobilizes less than 10% of that annually. And perhaps most telling of all, in just the past 8 years, our region has been struck by 5 Category 5 hurricanes. A sobering reminder that climate risk is not a future threat, but a present reality. The pressing question we must address, therefore, is this: how do we build resilience and drive growth in the Caribbean without deepening the very fiscal vulnerabilities we are trying to overcome? I would argue through fiscal headroom, partnership, innovation, and yes, scale. And that is why this Sustainability Week matters. Not as a forum for discussion alone, but as a platform for financial innovation that reshapes what is possible and helps us address these difficult questions. Today, I want to highlight one such innovation: the multi-guarantor debt for resilience swap. Now, at its heart, this swap is about 2 things: partnership and choice. Essentially, it brings together multiple guarantors to reduce risk, lower borrowing costs, and create meaningful fiscal space. Space that governments can then redirect toward long-term resilience investments, such as healthcare, climate adaptation, disaster preparedness, and other pressing priorities. However, there are several key actors who must work together in harmony for a successful outcome. MDBs must act as catalysts, leveraging their balance sheet, structuring expertise, and convening power to design instruments that are both financially robust and developmentally focused. Governments must provide the policy alignment and commitment needed to ensure that fiscal savings are effectively deployed toward priority sectors. Private insurers and guarantors bring additional risk-bearing capacity, helping to diversify and distribute risk beyond public balance sheets. Commercial banks and arrangers play a key role in structuring and executing transactions, ensuring they meet market standards and investor expectations. And importantly, investors provide the capital that ultimately enables these transactions to succeed, requiring clarity, credibility, and confidence in the structure. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not debt relief for its own sake. It is debt transformation, turning liabilities into opportunities and obligations into investments in people, communities, and futures. Friends, this is our moment of decision. The Caribbean does not lack ideas, and it does not lack commitment. What it requires now is scale, coordination, and the courage to innovate. The multi-guarantor approach shows us what is possible when we act together with purpose. It gives the tools to transform how we manage debt, to unlock space for investment, and to build a more resilient and sustainable future for our region. But let us be clear, this will not happen on its own. It will only succeed if we move decisively from discussion to execution, from intention to implementation. This week matters. The conversations we are having are, in fact, important, but they must lead to action. Because in truth, we are not just discussing ideas, we are shaping the future of our region. The global environment is uncertain and volatile. And the reality is clear. No one is coming to rescue us. The responsibility rests with us, our institutions, our partners, and our people, to act collectively, to act boldly, and to act now. So let us leave here not only aligned, but committed. Committed to partnership, committed to innovation, and committed to delivering real, tangible outcomes for the Caribbean. The path forward, friends, is ours. Let us build it together. I thank you.